Unconditional love. It is a topic I have desired to discuss for quite some time now because it is something we have all likely grappled with at some point. In multiple books and Hollywood movies, a concept is presented that some characters can fall in love unconditionally. What does one mean by unconditionally? A simple definition that we likely know of is one where there are no strings attached. The love is not conditional, or it does not depend on any other factors such as money, status, and so on. Basically, one person loves another based on who they are. A view of love that a person accepts all of their significant other's flaws and sins, never attempting to change or improve because they love them. Another view of love or a relationship is that people may love each other, but that does not mean they overlook all of their vices and shortcomings. Let us say that one partner has an addiction to alcohol, and this negatively affects the relationship. The unconditional view of love on this issue would be something along the lines of, well, it may be a vice, but it does not hinder my love for them. Or, I can overlook that and I will not attempt to change them because of this feeling that I have towards them, which we refer to as love. The latter viewpoint would say, look, this is a vice, and although I love you, this needs to change, or at the very least, be minimalized. With the compare and contrast of the perspectives of this case, I ask all of you now, is there such a thing as unconditional love? You can draw upon your own experiences, or from the experiences of others in your life if you wish, but the question remains the same. Do you believe there have ever been examples of unconditional love? Does it exist, or is it merely a fantasy, best to be left in books and Hollywood movies? I will start by attempting to prove it is indeed possible and go from there. If I cannot, then the logical conclusion is to state why it is not so. In my own life, the closest example I can recall of ever having experienced unconditional love, or something close to it, is from my mother and father. Parental love, one may argue, is unconditional love because parents, in most circumstances, sacrifice many of their own pursuits and dreams for the sake of raising their children, working long hours to not only make ends meet, but to provide the best life possible for the kids that they come home to each day. A parent very well may choose to neglect their children, and this tragically is the case for some, but for the most part, parents are there to raise their kids in the best manner, considering the circumstances. Parental love is likely the closest to unconditional love that most of us have experienced, but can it really be considered unconditional? An objection I can personally think of is, well, when you are living with them, as I am right now, their love is likely not conditional. Not too long ago, I passed the threshold from teenager into young adult. As a result, a whole host of new responsibilities and expectations have been thrust upon me. My parents envision me going down a certain path and desire for me to achieve a certain level of success. But what happens if I fail to live up to their expectations? Will their love still be unconditional then? What will most likely happen instead is that they will say, son, you know we love you and all, but you have to go out and get a good job so you can live on your own. You cannot just freeload off of us forever. This statement is not being made explicitly by my parents, but it is implied this is what they desire for me to do. They will want me to move out at some point, and so their love is conditioned on the level of my success. It has been in the past where if I did not live up to certain expectations, then I received strong criticism and indifference. A great deal of my life has been criticism and very little praise, so I can say that for myself personally, love from my parents is in fact conditional. I am sure that for you it is similar as well. So parental love cannot be considered unconditional, but that does not mean there are no instances of unconditional parental love. It may be very rare indeed though. I have expectations of myself and I desire to be successful, but sometimes I just wish my parents would trust me a little bit more and have a little bit more faith in their son, and that I will go out and bring about success. So if parental love is not to be considered unconditional, then what about romantic love? Is it really true that some people love one another unconditionally? The examples that come to mind are ones where one partner is clearly thought to be detrimental by everyone else, but the person in question does not leave. When asked why, he or she will say, because I love him or her. This often occurs in domestic abuse cases or narcissistic one-sided relationships. The person will claim to love the abuser or narcissist because what they perceive love to be is actually a fear of being left alone or abandoned. Now, it is not always that simple, but that is what most people believe to understand. Cases like those are not unconditional love because it, quite frankly, is not love in the sense that it is not reciprocal. It is very exploitative, and one partner is blinded by some other emotion that most often is misconstrued as love. What about in typical healthy relationships? Can love be considered unconditional in those? Sure, one would hope that would be the case as they are going so strong. Yet at the same time, we have seen people who were in love with each other for a great length of time, and then almost overnight appear to fall out of love. Why is that? Maybe it was not unconditional after all. Maybe there was something that was a make or a break for them and it fell through. Maybe such an impasse existed that there could be no way forward, no reconciliation situation. It could have been finances, careers, the issue of children, or something else. My point is that these relationships too are not exempt from love that is conditional. We see that with the ever so high divorce rates. Many marriages have fallen apart clearly because the love was conditional on something. In the end, when it really comes down to the wire, is anything completely unconditional, or are there hidden clauses, hidden ifs and buts that we do not realize until it is too late? The conclusion that I have learned to take from all of this is that there is no such thing as unconditional love, at least among humans, at least among all of us. There may be instances where it appears to be, but it never lasts forever. The grace period, the honeymoon phase, will end at some point. Knowing this fact that love is not unconditional, we must realize that if we pursue relationships at all, they are all liable to collapse. The question is whether or not two people have the maturity and will resolve to their differences and continue on. If that is not the case, then they will simply end up calling it quits. For those of you that choose to pursue relationships, keep this in mind, that no matter how much you love someone, or no matter how much you think they love you, all it takes is a wrench to be thrown your way, and it all comes crumbling down. The wrench could be thrown intentionally or unintentionally, either by you, your partner, or some other third party. In the end, it does not matter. The real question is, what are you two going to do about it? Let it topple you over, or view it merely as a pebble under your feet? So those are all of my thoughts on the matter, and now I ask you for yours. Is there such a thing as unconditional love, or is it complete fiction? Are there any examples that you have seen or know of? If not, why do you believe this is? Comment below with your answers. Thank you for taking the time to watch.